A few months ago, I attended a talk on the Mass. And the priest made a statement that really made me kind of sit up and look. Because he says, often we come to the Mass with a wrong expectation. We come to the Mass thinking we're going to have a happy meal. And it's not the purpose of Eucharist to have a happy meal. So what? And then he explained that mentality that many of us had many years ago of coming to the Mass. We said it was a holy sacrifice of the Mass. A sacrifice is a sacred gift. And what the Mass is a sacred gift to us. But a sacred gift, a holy sacrifice, what makes it so valuable is that in giving that sacrifice, it gives something of one's own essence as Christ gives us his bread and his body and his presence to us, but also his teaching in his life. And he gives it to us even to the point that he's willing to die and hand it over because we are so valuable. His truth is so necessary that he's willing to risk his life and even be rejected by many, but still stand firm in what he holds. And each time we celebrate the Eucharist, we come to share in this meal, to in turn become a holy sacrifice to others of Christ's way, truth, and life. To live the gospel principles and all the gospel principles and the full meaning of what we celebrate and receive in this Eucharist is no cakewalk in life. It was predicted how Ezekiel the prophet would be rejected in bringing God's words to his own people of Israel. St. Paul gives testimony today of what it felt like to have a thorn in his side and experience that rejection. Today in our gospel, we have this astonishing story of Jesus who comes back to his native place, wanting to give all that he could to the people. And yet, as so often with so many things in life, the failure to communicate, to listen, to be open to what another person says, to close off so many times who a person is by our own preconceived mentalities and thoughts. These people could only see Jesus in his past. And there's a lot of slams in this gospel. Because that phrase, the Son of Mary, which we might think, well, how valuable that is. But remember, women were not respected at that time. They held no place in society. So not to call him the son of Joseph, they do say he's a carpenter, that's a slam. You are worthless. You have no credentials. You didn't go to the Mosaic law of being a rabbi. What credentials have you had? Who are you to speak to us? Work your miracles, that's what we want. We want things from you, do them, but to engage in your life, to listen to you, not only did they reject him, in another gospel passage it says they took him to the top of the mountain on the hillside of where Nazareth is, and they wanted to throw him off. That's how much they did not want to be engaged in his life. Because to have faith means to be engaged. And in the mystery and the wonder of God, everything about bringing back to creation is always engagement. Whether it's Mary's, let it be done to me as your will. But the woman in the hemorrhage of last week, she had faith to touch. Jairus saw faith potential to heal his daughter. Every act of God's engagement is a connection and a relationship. But to be open and willing to accept and be a part of that relationship can bring so much. Is it impossible for God to do anything? Today's gospel says yes. When we fail to engage in God's ways as much as God would like, he's cut off. How unfortunate for those people of Nazareth to be closed-minded, unaccepting to what was right in front of them. But are we any different today? For the prophets in our midst. 2 weeks ago, when the Holy Father issues his encyclical on the environment, so many people rejected it outright, saying, "Who is he to talk about those kinds of things?" Curious how people could speak on what is said within minutes of it being released, because it's 246 paragraphs, 88 pages. Which of our TV or radio hosts can read that fast and comprehend that immediately, the words that is said? But they discounted it. And how many of us may have made comments already, and how many of us have read it? People say the Holy Father should step back and not talk about things that are not of his realm. He should only focus on religion and morals. Well, when God created this universe, he handed it into our hands in the sense of bringing life and respecting all life. For us to respect life, we have to be able to have food to eat. We have to be able to breathe. We have to be drinkable. This is a moral issue of how we live in the midst of our environment, and not only right here for us, but ensure the environment of the whole world. God created the United States, but God created every other aspect and inch of our land on this planet. And he entrusted to us, especially us in our faith, to be baptized, to be the caretakers and the stewards, to promote and safeguard a future that's ahead. So many times people are discounted, lack of credibility. I won't listen because it may not be a happy meal for me. It may cause me to make some changes in my life. Whether it's climate issues or not, which the Holy Father spends so little time on that aspect, but even in that aspect, what the Holy Father is saying, he wants to bring people together to dialogue. He openly admits he doesn't have all the answers, but he brings out concerns of what he sees and taking care of the world and how the world is being used. And no matter what we say, there is a lot of undrinkable water. There's a lot of air in this world that's unfit to breathe, and there is garbage all over the place. Our lives are to ensure a respect for life, not just here and now, but for millions of years in the future. And our footprints and handprints are going to be left on this world, and how we use it and how we're engaged in God's life. And that's what the Holy Father calls us to consider and reflect upon. My challenge to all of you is to take time to read this document. It's a wonderful reflection. The Holy Father's intermixed with scriptures, his personalism in the sense of respecting every person, and calls us in the name of Christ to live out that, is amazing, and it's a masterful piece to be read and reflected and prayed upon. But as he says, it's an engagement for us to look. God counts on us and has looked to us to be the answers and the solutions for the future of our world. How do we respond? How are we open to listen? How we let go of preconceived concepts on the way to do things? And yes, it may not be an easy and happy meal at moments, but sacrifice means something more valuable. And I entrust myself, I give of myself, so that others may have life. The people in Ezekiel's time rejected what he foretold, and they lost everything. St. Paul witnessed a similar rejection in the people of Corinth. And we saw in today's gospel what happened to his own people when they rejected Christ. Yesterday we celebrated 4th of July, a time of a new beginning, a new hope for our country. Planted on those words of life, liberty, freedom, pursuit, and opportunity for happiness could be given to us. And people sacrificed to make that dream come true. What God calls us to, and our Holy Father challenges us to be, is that those same opportunities of being able to live a life, to eat, to breathe, to drink, to be in harmony with one another, a chance of true freedom, an opportunity for hope and joy, is not just for an isolated country of 50 states, but for all the world. And that's what we're challenged to be, that hallmark, that chosen people, to share what we know and to give what we receive. Let this day, let this year, as we reflect upon the Holy Father's words and the environment in our world, be a new beginning for all.